Hello everybody, Keith here again. This is another repot video, and this time it's my Oncostele Catatante, probably Pacific Sun spots. Hasn't flowered yet this year, put up some new growth, still growing some. But it hasn't been repotted for quite some time. The pseudobulbs do seem to be in pretty good condition overall, but we've got a new growth there, and there's quite a lot of good growth, but it's not been done for a while, so just on that basis I think it's ready for a look at. If the shadows look a little bit odd, this is Sunday afternoon on the 13th of February, and I'm hoping the Sunday the 13th is going to be better than Friday the 13th. But putting that hilarity to one side, it's probably overdue. That I should imagine the media's pretty rank in there. I doubt very much if it's going to want potting up. I'm hoping that the roots are going to be reasonable, because some of these pseudobulbs are very large and absolutely rock hard, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is in a lot better nick than say the cymbidiums I did last time. But this was bought from a mate who's got a market stall, and he emailed me and said, I've been given the chance to get hold of some orchids, and they're cheap, and I popped up and I bought 3, and the last time I repotted this one I ended up with a bit dropping off it, and that's done well, and that will also want doing in the near future, so we'll see how long we take over this one. And it's entirely possible to do that one as well. That's much smaller, and the pseudobulbs aren't as big, but that's got new growths on, so that's in perhaps slightly less need of a repot than this one is. But as I say, this is this says this was done in July 20, and it's now February 22, so it's been in there a while. Perhaps not as long as I thought it might have been, but given you can lose roots almost overnight, it seems, once you hit that state where the bark starts to go, and this is just in ordinary bark, nothing special, it's probably a good time to do it. It's going to take a bit of time, I suspect, because it's a big lump of orchid. Oh, that's looking good. That looks very good indeed. We have got lots of roots. That doesn't look quite so good, does it? Lots of root coming off. So it strikes me that this has definitely been in here too long. We've got a lot of root. They don't feel as bad as they look, but the stuff in the middle, as is so often the case, is not very good, and a lot of it is just sort of dropping off as I'm just firtling around with this bark. It's going to take me a little bit of time to do, I think, so rather than bore you all absolutely witless with watching me while I'm just fiddling and faffing with this, we'll see. But I think, as you'd probably anticipate from the state of the pseudobulbs, things aren't too bad, but I think they were on the verge of going that way, because this hasn't been watered for at least a week, and down at the bottom it's not done very well at all, so by the time we've sort of, yeah, so they're not actually pulling off now. The worst bits were down in the bottom where it was wet, so there's a surprise, isn't it? You know, but I say we've got a new growth there, so that'll be putting roots out. But yeah, I've got a bit more to do. Probably not too much, but not an awful lot of point in. So I'll just finish messing about with this, and we'll come back soon. Okay, back again. There wasn't a lot of bark in this middle. It's a complete mass of roots, and a lot of that's gone, so I'll trim those back. But we have got roots which I think are reasonable, all growing around the outside, exactly where you'd expect them to be. Difficult to know whether it's worth trying to chop some of these bulbs away. They all look pretty good, they've all got leaves on. So my gut instinct is to leave it alone. The problem with that is it wasn't drying out fast enough, but I haven't got anything that's the right kind of diameter. That's 170 by 120 millimetre, which is roughly speaking 7 inches across the top and 6 inches deep. So I'm going to use the same pot. At the bottom, probably because this thing does drink, typical Oncidium, it drinks like a fish when it's growing and the weather's warm. But I think what I'm going to do is perhaps put some more holes in with my soldering iron, and put, instead of the Westland mix in the bottom, which definitely clogged things up and stayed wet, I'm just going to use a plain bark, the orchid focus bark, with a layer of coarser bark in the bottom to act as crocking. But I think if I put some, do I put some more holes in or not? It's not an air cone pot, we've got some big holes in the bottom. And it's a drinker. I think I'm going to leave the pot alone and we'll repot it, but we'll put some coarse bark in place. Right. This stuff is a coarse bark that I got through the East Midlands Orchid Society. You've seen this before. On its own this will be too coarse for something with fine roots like an Oncidium. There is some finer stuff in it, but I don't have the facilities, or the time for that matter, to try and do anything with that, to sieve out the smaller size stuff and try and segregate it a bit. But I think if I put this back like that, it can go a little bit deeper, which won't hurt. It's going to take some potting, so I'm not going to bore you with that. There'll be quite a lot of work to do there, but I'll show you the result when we get to the other end of it. So again, see you soon. Okay, that's the plant repotted. It's taken a bit of fiddling because the plant sits very tight to the edges of the pot, and I didn't want to pot it up, as I said before, because try and pot it up you're going to increase the depth, and these roots didn't seem to be going down that far, so short of cutting the top off a pot and going from there, which I'm not sure about, I wasn't sure what I could do. But anyway, there's the coarse bark in there, and then the orchid focus bark, which I use a lot. It's this kind of size range. But I had quite a job because I was trying to pack it down into the pot. It's gone in, but it was quite a fiddle, getting my fingers in, getting the bark in even. But that's been done now, and I can fill the rest of this in. Try and work out where it was facing before. About like that, I think. So I can put that back in there, and then put this date, redo the date on this. So that's the first of the Catatante Pacific Sun spots, and I think, seeing this hasn't taken me too long, I'll have the little plant out of its pot. We'll have a look at that and see whether we can see any real difference. Okay, this is the other Catatante. This one's never flowered. I don't think it's quite big enough yet, but it ought to be fairly close, I think. According to the label, this has been in this pot since June 19, so it's certainly ready for doing. It's been in there nearly 3 years. But, as you can see, the roots are right down to the bottom and don't look too bad. So, can we say we might have got away with this? No, helicopters all over the shop again. I don't live ever so far from the East Midlands Airport, so we do get quite a lot of helicopters coming over at different times of day. So yeah, let's have a look at this and see where we stand. Always a good start to get it out of the pot. It looks pretty good. The roots have gone down. Oh, if that's all I lose, I shan't be doing too badly. So, air cone pot, just in plain bark, not doing too bad. That bulb's going to have to come off, it's already too low, and everything else is going on above it. But these roots, I think, are in at least as good a condition as the big one, the mother plant, if you will. And I think it can safely do without all the bulbs, and that one's got no leaves on. So let's get down to there. Well, these roots do seem in pretty good nick. They really do. But that's got to be, if nothing else comes off, that's definitely got to come off, even if I lose some of these roots, which I don't really want to do, but I can't find the rhizome. There's no roots on it from that bit. Let's have a look. I'll have that off for a start. And I think that rhizome goes down there, and there's not much to be gained from leaving that on at all. That's firm, and I'm not sure where I'd start chipping away at that one if I start getting there. So I'll leave that one alone, take that one off. It's firm enough, but it doesn't look very happy at the bottom, so that's fine, we'll get rid of that. Just like the other one, we've got a dense mat of roots. You can imagine how these can drink. But I think because this is not had any westland anywhere near it, it's just had ordinary bark. it seems to have drained better, even though that bark is definitely, that's quite poor. So this was probably overdue for a repot, but looking at these roots, they do seem pretty good. So all I really need to do now is slap some cinnamon across that cut, and it can all go back again. That's got the cinnamon on just there. How well you're going to see it, I don't know. The light's not very brilliant, but I'm using one of the LED lights that my good lady bought me for Christmas. Just the one, just to give you a little bit of a tweak. Doesn't throw out a huge amount of light, but it definitely makes a difference. You can see it. So, air cone pot, exactly the same treatment as its bigger sibling. I'm going to put it back in the same pot. Coarse bark in the bottom for crocking, and the orchid focus bark for the main body of it. Where are we? Yeah. Right. I mean, these are a spectacular orchid if you've got room for them. The flower spikes are very long and carry a lot of flowers. The last time the big one flowered, I managed to knock one of the spikes off. I was very annoyed with myself for that. But when they get as big as they get, and you're talking about 2 or 3 feet in length, they're very difficult to manoeuvre. When you're trying to water them, take them off the rack or wherever and lift them down to water them, it's very, very easy to catch the spike on the roof or just anything really, and unfortunately then it all goes wrong. But this is pretty much what I had to do with the other one, just add some bark in the top and use my fingers or thumbs to try and pack it in. I'm not trying to put too much in at once, just putting a bit in, working round, a bit in, working round. I think that's probably better than bury one side. I mean, a hole there which needs doing. It's one of the advantages, of course, of a clear pot. You can see where it's not gone quite right. It is quite concerning, shall we say, when you just start out and the experts say, "Oh, you've really got to pack the bark in tight," and you go, "Yeah, but it's crunching," and they say, "Yeah, but it's the bark, it ain't the roots." That's true for the most part. I mean, you can damage roots when you're repotting, and I suspect we do to an extent, but at the end of the day, it's the right way to go to get it in there, packed in tight. They don't like to wobble. That's one thing I have learned, an absolute fact. If they wobble, they tend not to put roots out. because to put a new root out and then just have it snap off is obviously not a good thing for a plant. It's wasting energy then. So I remember some years ago now talking to somebody about it, and they said, oh yeah, it's got to be pretty snug in the pot. If it ain't snug, it won't settle. And the better that you pack the bark in, the better these things do. Now, it's a generalisation, of course it is, and it's more of a problem with the plants that you're going to use more moss with. This is very much a trick for those plants like this one, where you don't want any moss in it, you just want bark. So that's pretty much done. It's reasonably consistent all the way around. The bulb that had been buried has been lifted out, so all I need to do now is change the date on my little stick to the 13th of the 2nd 22, and we'll see how we go with this. So that's the smaller of the two Catatante Pacific Sun spots done. I hope that was interesting. It's nice now that that doesn't need a stick. It probably hasn't done for a while, because it's been nearly 3 years in this pot, which is disgraceful. So I can now know exactly where things are and what have you. So thanks for watching. I hope that's been interesting. Quite enjoyed that. I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because the experience of some of the others I've done recently where I've left it too long is things have gone badly wrong, whereas with these two, thank goodness, we're doing okay. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.